Hi, this is a podcast dedicated to role models on your doorstep here at the University of Leeds. This project is funded by Research England through the Enhancing Research Culture stream. We wanted to create a platform to share relatable and inspirational stories from colleagues from different cultural backgrounds, genders, roles and career stages. I'm Rob Kelsall, Professor in Electronic and Electrical Engineering at the University of Leeds. Today I'll be talking to my good friend and colleague, Karen Tsui, Collaboration Development Manager for the White Rose University Consortium. Hi, Karen.
Hello, Rob.
Hi, great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little about your work with the White Rose Consortium?
Yeah, sure. So as my title suggests, collaboration development manager, I develop collaboration, and White Rose is a collaboration between the University of Leeds, Sheffield, and York. And the consortium has been around for over 27 years. So I am very lucky to be involved in the last probably 7 years. And I have seen and been involved in lots of developing lots of very exciting collaboration with amazing people. So that's my role. But I do work with both academic colleagues and professional colleagues. And last year I stepped up to become the head of White Rose in an interim period for interim term, and it has been quite exciting, really. Yeah.
It sounds like a fascinating job. So what do you enjoy most about your role and about working with the three universities?
Well, I'm someone who are quite restless, or I don't know, maybe I've never been diagnosed as ADHD, but the friends that I know, I kind of share lots of what they have in common. That I get excited by new things. I get excited by working with different people and diverse people from diverse backgrounds. And I look forward or I enjoy developing new things or exploring new opportunities. And White Rose just tick all the boxes. So I can work with people from across three Russell Group universities, the strongest in Yorkshire. And I can also work with other people, people outside of White Rose. And if that collaboration will make sense. And I can also develop, or there's no restriction. You see, there's the possibilities endless, and I think collaboration is one of those things that you can just test it. If it doesn't work, it's totally fine. You just go back to your original self. But then for me, I'm here to help lots of colleagues who are hesitant, but a little bit curious, to kind of encourage them and get them off their comfort zone, so they can then develop something White Rose, or they can then start thinking outside of the usual box. And I think for academics or colleagues in higher education, that innovation or creativity is very important. It's not just collaborating with White Rose University, but it's that mindset. So I think I'm quite excited by the possibilities of helping colleagues to explore what's possible outside their usual comfort zone. And that gives me most sort of satisfaction.
That's great, yeah. And I know from previous conversations we've had that you've helped a lot of people in that role.
Yeah.
You talked about being restless. So can you tell us a bit about your life journey before coming into this job at the White Rose and how that journey has informed your professional development?
Well, these are very good questions, and I think I would like to share two moments of my life before joining the White Rose. And I just want to not spoiler alert, so not to warn colleague, but this is something some colleagues might feel uncomfortable hearing. But the two moments that I felt I would very much like to share here, my journey before White Rose. The first one is that, if I explain my background, is I started as a PA in Imperial College very many years ago. And then the journey working as a PA all the way to the head of White Rose, it has been lots of up and downs. So when I started my first job, that's not a PA role, I got a business card, and then it's just got my name on it, and not a PA to somebody who and who or whatever. And then that very moment, Rob, I was like, wow, I'm not affiliated with someone. I'm doing something for myself. and I can just claim my credits. I'm not like serving someone like a servant, because I don't know if you've watched the Handmaids. So there's this episodes about well, at the end of the world. I mean, people if they watch Handmaid, they will know. So the characters in Handmaid's tales, or this end of the world, and then fertility become a problem, and then women become prisoners and become like reproductive organs, and then they have to be forced to have children so the society will survive. So in that very story, the handmaids got their names. Say if this handmaid belonged to Fred, then this handmaid's name is Off Fred. Off is O-F. Fred is the F-R-E-D, Fred. So if this handmaid belonged to Glenn, then her name is Off Glenn. And this is handmaid always belong to somebody. They have no identity. They have no names. So when I got my business cards after all the PA jobs, and then I look at my cards, and then I am kind of like free. I thought, this is what I want. I just want to be able to say, okay, I am doing work for myself, and this is me working, and then or building my own brand. And although I enjoy very much working as PA with wonderful, wonderful people, but I think that was a moment that I feel that my career, if I'm going to develop something, I need to have a special track record. So that was one moment, and then that's why I started to look for things that can enhance my CV, but at the same time, while the jobs allow me to help people, but I would be doing it not as a PA or in that capacity. I'm not saying assistants I know there are lots of personal assistants or research assistants out there, but my point here is that when we wear that hat, we are still ourselves. We are individual human beings. So there are still credits to be sort of claimed as us doing a fantastic job, and it doesn't have to be affiliated. So that's one story. I don't know if we've got time to share the other one, Rob, actually.
I'd love to hear the other one. So what I'm hearing is that identity in your work is really important, and being seen, being recognized for who you are is really important.
Spot on, yes. And being seen as an individual human being. And
absolutely.
I think that's quite valuable as well. So my second story is a bit I don't talk about it very often, so it'll be the first time you hear it as well. It was a moment. Where do I start? So I live in Sheffield. So Sheffield is very hilly, and then one winter, on a very hilly slope, me and my husband, we were driving the kids, or we're picking our children up from nursery and then coming home to pick the other kids up. So we were kind of rushing, but the slope was very slippy. So our car was like sliding, and then I was very stressed during that period of time. So what happened at that moment, our car lost control and it slid down the slope. And then that very moment, again, is almost like this aha moment. I thought, oh no, we're gonna die, and then I seriously thought this is going to happen, and it just happened very kind of suddenly, and then I thought, oh no, if we die at that moment, who's gonna sort our dead body out? And I had no idea, because I'm first generation immigrants here. I have no next of kin except for my husband and the children. But then I've just picked one kid up. What about the other one? So I was thinking, like, there's no backup. There's no people that I've kind of, legally or officially tell them if anything happened to us, they will help us sort anything else. There wasn't, and then I was panicking. I thought, no, this is the end. This is the end. And then that moment, a stranger, a total stranger, walking uphill, and I imagined that as a man, but maybe it was a woman. I can't remember. All I could see is someone wearing a green jacket. And then because our car struggling to go uphill, and then this person tried to push our car uphill while this very slow motion, and I thought, I hope we don't kill him at the same time while we die in that accident. So that was my kind of immediate reaction. But then he seemed to be quite strong, or she seemed to be quite strong, and then push our car back up, and then we managed to gain momentum, and then we move out of that danger. And then after that episode, I thought, oh my God, I need to really sort my will out, or I need to do something properly, find out what happened, if that actually happened. But then my point here is that this kindness of this stranger, total stranger, which I've never got a chance to meet, really saved our lives. Maybe it wasn't as serious as I thought, that accident, but I mean, they don't have to do it. You see, that this total stranger, and then this person probably didn't know I was going through like a mental breakdown while that accident's going. But then because of his sort of, or her kindness, and almost like, yeah, it saved my life. And then what can I say? So I would see this person almost like a role model, or someone that I think, if I can offer like unconditional kindness, and some people might actually need it that I didn't know, then I would very much like to sort of repay that or that kindness and spread it. And I think that's kind of like my principle in doing that. But my point here again is that I was so stressed in that moment because my job was my role was restructured during my maternity leave. And I went to an office with very little information, and suddenly I find myself lost in the system. So I'm a young mother then, looking after children, working as a staff in the university, and my office didn't seem to, or line manager didn't seem to support the transition, but I had to face with a restructured office, and then there was stress to kind of cope with, like on top of being an international woman in the workplace. I'm dealing with 2 young children and maternity leave, which some people told me it was a disruption. And later I know this is illegal to say so, but then then I found myself falling through all the cracks. So there are support for certain groups of people, but I don't know. I kind of don't find myself being helped. But of course, that stranger helped me. But that was the moment I thought I need to be stronger. So I need to grow and become stronger so I can protect myself and I can help others. If I want to do that, then I need to find a new office or a new place. And that's why I moved. And my kind of motivation is always, if I can get myself stronger, then I'll have more power to help others. So that's kind of take me to where I am in the White Rose, and that kind of is what, like a moral compass, or I don't know, that gives me energy to do my work.
Wow, that's quite a story, and quite a parable. The unknown man or woman, with their bravery. Actually, I'm trying to imagine myself in the snow, standing in the path of a car that's slipping downhill, and being willing just to stand there and push it upwards. Plus, the point that that person didn't know what you were thinking. He didn't know the panic that was going through your head at the time. So he didn't know just how significant his or her intervention was. And so, Karen, that's now your inspiration.
I believe so, yeah. And I kind of get attracted by people who are very kind as well. So the people that make me still kind of my closest friend, I think we share that kindness. I mean, I don't know, people, I suppose you get attracted, or your network will grow into people when you share the common personality traits, or yeah. So I'm quite lucky to be kind of sharing that.
Yeah. So you mentioned that your career so far has taken you up last year to be the head of the White Rose Consortium. What did that feel like?
Yeah, that felt like a lot of burden suddenly kind of shifted on my shoulder with very little notice, really. So it was unprepared, but I knew something was going on, but I wasn't quite sure until my role suddenly changed officially. Then I realized that it's the job title, although it's just a title, when it's being translated into everyday work, and during the period that I was heading up, our office shrank from usually 5 people to 2, or usually 3-4 people to 2. So it was a period of uncertainty. So again, because my kind of I'm restless again, so I enjoy challenges, and when I was in that position, I thought that there's a challenge, but at the same time there are opportunities. So if I am in that position and I can do something, then I'll just give it my best shot, really. So what I was trying to do then was to work with all the stakeholders, and then prioritize what are the key things during my interim period, and making sure that whatever necessary to protect White Rose heritage or our track record that are protected, but at the same time a smooth transition while we're waiting for the new head of White Rose to be appointed. So that was my kind of interim role, and I'm quite proudly say that I fulfill that with the line manager being quite happy with my performance. So I think it's both exciting and challenging, but I enjoyed it, and well, in the end I was exhausted. So that's I don't know, being a restless person, of course, exhaustion, yes.
I know that you're in that unique position that there was nobody else around who knew as much about the White Rose Consortium as you did.
I know, convenient, yes.
So what advice would you give to anybody else who is quite suddenly thrown into a leadership role, particularly in a time of change and transition?
Well, thanks for this question. It's each situation will be different. So I'm giving advice, or I would say my points below would be my experience. So I think the first thing is look after yourself and your team. So I would think in a transition, it is very easy to be pulled into different directions and rush into some kind of rush decision. But a team without a healthy and a team leader with a clear head and able to make clear good decisions is not an operational team. So the first thing is to make sure the team is stable and people are well looked after, both the leader or the person and the team member. I think that's the most important thing. Then is to look at the priorities and what is while the team is in good what do you call it, well-being and in a good situation, then is to explore what are the key things to be dealing with, and make decisions strategically on how to deal with day-to-day and more longer-term challenges. Because my approach to work is always that everything you do, that there is a cost to pay. So if we choose to not do something now, there will be opportunity costs in the longer term. So the way that I evaluate risks, or I plan for I plan for strategies, and I had experience in the past to prepare and draft strategies. Then the approach that I adapt is that I will evaluate the immediate or short-term, medium and long-term impact, and then work backwards. That if we have to deal with certain urgent thing, but what are the options out there that we can choose, evaluate these options, and see if choosing a harder options now will bring more longer term benefits. So that is the process itself involve a lot of consultation, talking to people and actually looking at evidence or data or available information to be able to make the right decision. But I mean, my point here is important that with a healthy and happy team, and then looking at the priority, but not rushing into quick decision, but looking at a more medium long-term impact, and then dealing with immediate firefighting thing, then you can't get too wrong. So, but finally, I think it's important to evaluate. I mean, I'm always a person who like to make sure that, okay, there are a measurable assessment criteria or something that you can always work on. So we can then use them as evidence to prove, okay, we're doing something and this is how, and this is the validation. So that would be my approach.
Great, thank you. Yeah. So, Karen, we've mentioned role models briefly, and this podcast series is all about role models. So, who have been your role models in the workplace, and how would you say having a role model affects and supports the way in which you approach your work?
Yes. Well, my role model, I have quite many, but let me think. Maybe I'll give you two. So I've got a personal role model or a personal friend, and I have a do you call work mentor? Yes.
Right.
So my personal role model, I would like to say my Sheffield mother. So her name is Sheena Hamish. Sadly, she died 4 years ago during lockdown. But she has always been my role model. I still talk to her actually, but I mean in my imagination. But so again, I've learned so much from Sheena, and a lot of the things that I spend time with her and talking to her, and they gave me the confidence that I'm making the right decision. So sometimes again, when I was in different roles or even in my current development manager role, there are sometimes I need to make certain decisions while I'm dealing with certain things or have to handle certain conflicts or have to deal with some, I don't know, a situation that are not easy to deal with. Then the principle or the kind of that gut feeling, I always will follow what I know from Sheena. So I can always quote, or I know I can always go back or even ask her permission, or what do you think, Sheena, to come back to say, okay, I think this will pass the Sheena test. So that's one way I deal with that. And then my work role model, she is a new kind of very senior manager in I met recently, and I think she to me she's fearless. So she is one of those women or international women that I've come across that's unusual, that she has this sort of fearless, I don't know, or aura. What is it? Is it what do you call it? So it almost like she's radiating fearless. So instead of being like I am in charge kind of leadership, she's like I I am the boss, but not like saying loudly I'm in charge, but she gives that sort of a leader, um I don't know, that aura that almost it's like how do you describe it? It's almost like radiates around her. And I'm someone who's quite scared. I get scared all the time. I always felt like I doubt myself, and I know, am I doing the right thing? Am I evaluating, am I doing all the evaluation? Am I making the right decision, or am I saying something that is too I don't know, rude? I always doubt myself. But then looking at her, I thought, wow, I want to be like her, or I want to be less fear. I want to fear less. Let's say not fearless, but fear less. I want to have more courage. But for me, I will have to work very hard to contain my self-doubt or that the inner voice to to come to ask people for things. Yeah, so she's also my role model. Yeah.
Great. Well, Karen, I'd say that you have an enormous amount of courage.
Thank you.
Totally, yeah. And don't forget that courage is not about being afraid. It's about being willing to go ahead and do the stuff, even when you are afraid.
Yeah, which is what we're doing now. I'm quite scared of this. Actually, telling it makes me feel good. Yeah, sharing those stories. But I hope the audience will enjoy listening to those and not put off by this podcast.
I hope so too, and you're doing great. And so really inspiring to hear about Sheena, and so sad that she's no longer with you.
I know. Yeah.
So I know from your work that you've helped and supported a lot of people through the White Rose Consortium. So I'm curious to hear, what have people fed back to you about the particular ways that you've encouraged and inspired them?
Oh, Yeah, I did a 360 exercise before, and that's how I try to collect feedback from colleagues. And I was quite embarrassed when I look at the feedback. I literally just can't I find it difficult to read. I thought, this is not me. This is someone that they're describing for some other people. But then that's why I need to ask help for someone to help read me interpret. Are they being nice, saying nice things to me, or do they really mean, with examples, etc. But the feedback that they have mentioned included compassion. I think that was one of the things that it kind of hit me quite a lot. That again, that I thought, wow, yeah, I do feel that, yes, looking back, both my parents, they wouldn't be alive if there were no help from strangers, really, when they were growing up. So they were helped, or they survived certain things because of the strangers' kindness. So I grew up with my parents sort of, I don't know, that as my role model, I suppose. Then then kindness is always something quite important. So I think my compassion probably come from my family a lot, and then working in the UK system over the last 2 decades, I've come across many people that, again, we help each other. So that compassion almost like is infectious. So I think that would probably be one of the strengths, or the special what do you call it, traits I've heard. And I think people also like me working with them and generate energy from them, that sometimes they like to be pushed a little bit. And I'm one of those people, if there's an opportunity, I'll try to convince them that come and do something White Rose. And yes, and that I'm not afraid saying that. So I'm quite surprised that sometimes, yes, if I'm doing it for White Rose, it's okay. But if it's doing it for myself, then I will hesitate. So I don't know why. But that's also, I think, it's one as well. I think that's the two things I remember.
Brilliant. Compassion and energy and enthusiasm. Well, those are two great things to be
Thank
known
you.
for. And I'd certainly agree with both of those.
Oh, thank you.
So, Karen, what does it mean for you to be a role model yourself now?
Yeah, so for me, I noticed that since I started chairing the Women at Leeds Network, when initially I was trying to kind of I was like an interim chair when the other chair were not available. So I thought, okay, if the job needs doing, then I'll volunteer. But then later I became the actual chair, and then suddenly it's been 5 years working for the Women's Network at doing different things. And then that was the point again. I realized that actually that was leadership. That was also being a role model. And then I noticed that there are not many Chinese women around speaking up and being out there, especially from professional background. So then I realized that actually I am the person that I don't have other people to look up to. So I become that person. Suddenly it is that role model kind of heart dawned on me. And then I thought, oh, I need to be aware that this is, again, a responsibility, but also an opportunity. So I kind of become aware, and then I want to also tell others it's okay to be out there. It's okay to speak up. When my culture, usually, I mean, China, well, I grew up in Hong Kong, so usually my culture is like, I say my culture, I mean, in Hong Kong, you don't talk. Humility is very important. It's always humble, and always don't speak up, and no, you don't challenge the authority. I have to override a lot of cultural instinct to be able to do what I had to do in the Women's Network. And then I realized that is actually something quite special, that sometimes for other colleagues from different cultural background, they might have to go through something similar to override their almost like autopilot system, to be able to stand up and act for the best benefit for them. Because I mean, now I totally understand the importance of building your own brand. So it's me being that person, that my brand, that I'm doing something that is it's me, that So being a role model or doing different things, that will actually be my role and my almost like my brand. So I find that quite then I realized, yes, this is actually like a project that you have to work on.
Mhm.
That's yeah.
That's great, and so it's a really good example of being a role model, and also a really good example again of your courage. Well, we've come to the end of our time, so Karen, thank you so much for talking to me today as part of this Role Models on Your Doorstep podcast series.
Thank
Uh,
you.
it's been a real pleasure to hear your story and also to hear about the people who've been role models to you. So
Thank
this has
you.
been Rob Kelsall interviewing Karen Tsui. For those listening, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Thanks for your interest, and please do drop in and listen to the other stories that we've shared as part of our We Are Role Models project. Thanks for
Yes.
listening, and goodbye for now.
Bye.